Hey guys, this is Crapper, welcome back to What of Tanks. Woo! And in today's video, we're going to be having a look at the Indien Panzer. Yes, this Tier 8 German medium tank along the Leopard PTA line has now been elited. Huzzah! Yes, I have been able to research the Leopard PTA after getting it up to 172,000 experience. That's like the largest amount of experience I've had to grind for a medium tank ever. Like, even the Centurion, if we're not mistaken, doesn't have to grind as long. Yeah, 165, so few extra thousand. But I will say, in that grind, I have discovered that this vehicle is not only worthy of my praise, but also my love, as I absolutely love this vehicle. It's my favourite Tier 8 medium tank. Yes, it's got its flaws, but the style of this thing works for me so much more. So, without further ado, let's get started on this. So, to start off with, what's your hit points for this vehicle? 1300. Ah, okay. Well, yeah, unfortunately this vehicle doesn't really have many hit points. In fact, I think you only get like either 100 hit point upgrade or maybe even 50 hit point upgrade from the VK 3002 DB. Though that said, this vehicle only doesn't have an upgradable turret, so you don't have to worry about researching it. So 6 of one, half a dozen the other, but it is quite low regardless. Let's see how you fare in comparison to your counterparts. Now, I've actually done some research, shockingly, and I can tell you that the T-34-2, when fully upgraded, is the same, or has the same amount of hit points, being 1300, so equal to the Chinese. France hasn't got anything yet, but shockingly, if you go to the Panther II and fully upgrade it, you will get 1500 hit points. That's ridiculous. That is basically, you've got an IS-3, only that can go faster, slightly less gun. Slightly less good gun. So, yeah. Well, this is known to be the more heavily armoured line, and the hit points certainly reflects that very much. Going down to Britain, the Centurion, while not being an IS-3 style, gets 1450 hit points, so still 150 better than you. The Americans follow suit and fall short by about 10 hit points, as this one, when fully upgraded, the American Pershing, gets only 1440 hit points, so 140 better than you still. Oh dear, not looking too good for the Indien Panzer. But rejoice, because the Object 416 actually gets 1200 hit points, so it's worse than you. Huzzah! Yes, we're not as shit as this tank. Yeah, so that vehicle there, you are actually better by 100 hit points than. The T-44, once again, like the Chinese, you are also equal to, so not so bad against Russia. And finally, because we can compare them, the STA-1, which is the Japanese Tier 8 medium tank, shares the same amount of hit points as the British Centurion. So, it's better than you by 150. Yeah, the Indien Panzer isn't very good when it comes to brawling. Certainly do not take it into a brawl. This thing definitely isn't designed to take multiple shots, which can be quite a difference from driving the VK, which kind of gave the impression that you could be slightly closer than usual. But if you drove the VK like I did, you possibly would be used to those tactics by now. So yeah, this thing isn't... Yeah, but this thing, for hit points wise, is very poor. Now, on to weight and horsepower. You have 39.95 tons and have a maximum tonnage limit of 43. This, in combination with 630 horsepower, gives your vehicle a very nice and healthy 50 km per hour speed limit, added on by a very pleasant 38 traverse speed. Though there is a bit of a disadvantage with this, as you only have 15.77 horsepower per ton, which basically means she's a little slow to get going, but once she gets going, it's more than, you definitely get up to the 45, 50 kilometers per hour speed limit on flat ground. It's just when it comes to maneuvering, you have to make sure you kind of pre-plan where you're going beforehand, otherwise you could possibly get stuck, taking that much longer to get to your objective. Now, on to armor. Unfortunately, the Indien Panzer doesn't really have much, if any, armor. 90 to the front, 90 to the sides, 45 to the rear, and the turret is pretty much the same. Though that said, what makes this vehicle slightly more interesting than a very badly armoured vehicle is that there are a couple of zones which, if you are A, in my case, extremely lucky, and B, angled your tank well enough, you can bounce most shots off the frontal and turret sections of this vehicle. In fact, on one occasion, I was able to, with very much great amounts of luck, bounce a Yag E100 shell on the side of my turret. Yeah, I realised there was a massive dent and the entire image of that was gone, but I didn't care. But how much luck is involved with bouncing stuff? Well, let's go on a Tank Inspector to find out. So, here we are on Tank Inspector, here is the Indien Panzer, and here are the Indien Panzer armor values. Now, as this thing is remarkably badly armored, I can't really say too much for, obviously, this vehicle, but what I will highlight is a number of points which could help save your life in a battle. First of which is the armor on the hull and turret. Unfortunately, World of Tanks lies to you about how much effective armor you have. Because in the stats of this in the game, it says that you have 90mm to the front and the sides of both your turret and your hull. While there is a lot more armor of the 90mm to the side of your turret, there is virtually nil to the actual side of your hull. Unfortunately, the 90mm that they promised you is actually in the track area, which, while it gets a nice little buff from spaced armored tracks, actually doesn't protect you at all from up here. In fact, the armor values that you really will receive is more like 60. And that isn't all that is bad. The 60mm as well only covers more of the frontal section than the actual 90mm. As you can see there, that's all 60, which doesn't help at all. I mean, it is extremely well angled, though, I will not deny it. The angling of this vehicle is very nice at the front, but yeah, unfortunately, on the sides and the sides to also near rear of the turret, it's all 60, which means that if you are in a tier 6, if you are facing off against tier 6s, for example, and one of them happens to be the KV2, or you are in a tier 7, you're facing off against tier 7s and 8s, and you've got the ISU with the derp gun, or the SU-152 with the derp gun, then there is a high chance that if he shoots you around here, or God forbid, around here, you will be penetrated by that shell and pretty much blown up before you can say whoops. So be extremely careful not to show any of your sides. Now, on to something a little bit more positive with regards to your 90mm of hull armor. It is immensely well angled. As you can see by here, it's a very, very it's very well angled, which means that if you are having to get closer than usual, than my recommended ranges, which is medium to long, then you can utilize your frontal armor when going around corners and on points, maybe angling. Not as much as perhaps, maybe even side scraping, I don't know. Tracks, they can take a fair amount. But generally speaking, you want to make it so that this section of your hull armor is exposed, if anything, because I've been able to bounce multiple shots simply by either peeking over the top of hills or angling around corners, which allows me to expose mostly this section of hull armor, which at high angles will bounce and ricochet loads of things. And if not, if you do get penetrated, then it'll have to have been a high caliber shell, because the armor values go ridiculously way high, like almost double the 90mm that it says on the stats. So that is reassuring, to say the least. The same goes for your turret as well. As I've said also beforehand, I have been able to withstand a Jagd Panzer E100 ricochet. So it was either more luck on my side with that one, but it's still possible if you angle very much effectively. So let's get on to the other point of this. Obviously, you've got a very tough and strong gun mantit, which benefits from 130mm at the front, which on one or more occasion I have been able to. Well, I've taken a hit, but it bounces off. So it's a very strong gun mantit. You've got varieties of spaced armor around there. So if someone does try and take a punt at you, you have got the benefits of spaced armor plus your hull armor. And the final thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is this. Never under any circumstances risk yourself to artillery fire. Why? Because of that. Yeah, that's 15mm worth of hull armor there. Which means that even if a tier 4 artillery hits and shoots you, you will receive possibly full or slightly more damage. It's just... Yeah, it's very, very weak. You never want to get shot by artillery, as it has that triple thing as well. So, yeah, for all you artillery lovers out there, I'm very sorry to all the Indian Panzer drivers out there, but artillery has that on you, which means if you are hit, you are pretty much screwed. Luckily, you are a smallish vehicle, and you are a fast vehicle, but unfortunately, you are still very weak there. So take exceptional care when engaging multiple combatants, otherwise you will, if artillery's looking at you and you're doing extremely well, be sure to have artillery cover, otherwise your game could end very, very quickly. So that's all I really have to say about this armor on this vehicle. I will see you back in the garage. Now, onto view range and signal range. Now, the Indian Panzer doesn't really get anything majorly beneficial in regards to view range and signal range, being at 380 and 720, which in admittance is actually better than most Tier 8 and Tier 9 German tanks, so that's a decent one. The Germans actually get a nice Tier 9 upgraded radio, which is pretty awesome. Let's see how you fare in comparison stats-wise. So, the T-34-2 with upgraded turret gives them 380 view range, so they are the same as you. But unfortunately they also get a very good radio, being at 750. Oh dear. So they are the same as you view range-wise, but beats you quite triumphantly at signal range. The Panther II has 390 view range, and gets the FUG-12 for signal range. So you are better than the Panther II when it comes to signal range, but unfortunately he can see 10 meters further. The Centurion Mark I, with its fully upgraded turret, will give it 400 view range, so better than you by 20, and also they gain access to a Tier 10 radio, being at 750. And unfortunately doesn't stop there, as the Pershing pretty much does the same thing. Their top upgraded turret gives them 400 view range, and their radio gives them 745 signals. So two tanks that completely trump you when it comes to view range and signal range. The Object 416 has the same amount of view range as you, and actually completely whoops your arse for Tier 10 radios because it gets 760 signal range. So, damn. Yeah, that's unexpected. Jeez. So, much better signal range than you. The T-44 gets 380 signal range, view range, and gets 730 signal range. So Russia on par with you visually, better than you slightly radio-wise. And finally, the STA gets, with its fully upgraded turret, 390 view range and 750 signal range. So, unfortunately, you're not really going to present that much of a legendary edge against many Tier 8 counterpart tanks when it comes to view range or signal range. But that said, for what this tank is needed for in combat, it does the job very well. It will definitely help you out. You won't really be lacking in view range much when it comes to most forms of engagement, and the signal range is more than adequate, as the FUG-12 has dictates in most forms of engagement. Now for my favourite thing of any review, the gun. And this gun, I will say, is what makes me love this tank. And it's actually also the reason why this review is also slightly later than I had previously planned. I am talking about the Border Cannone. You see, before patch 9.2, this gun was alright. It used to serve me well, used to serve me pretty well in the previous patches, but then in 9.2 they decided to buff a number of things. With this gun, it was the reload. She has now 8.33 rounds a minute, 212 pen, 240 damage, 0.34 and a 2.7 second aiming time, which for a tier 8 medium tank gun is very good. The accuracy is what makes this thing awesome, and also the fact that this gun is a sniping gun. If you hadn't figured out what kind of tactics this thing has, also its long elongated right barrel. It is a sniper tank. I have found that this is my favourite method of mediuming. I know I've just given it away, but screw it. Yes, I'm not a flanker. This is the thing that separates me from the Comet lovers, is I don't like flanking. This thing works up close if you have to, but preferably I prefer my engagements from medium to long ranges, and as such allows me to work with this gun very well, as it's actually got a pretty decent pen. It's not great, but it does the job. At Tier 8 games and Tier 9 games, you can do relatively well. Tier 10 games, you do start to struggle quite a bit. But then again, also, as long as you take advantage of the situation and get some flanking shots in, you still could do some damage. But it probably would require you having to get a little bit closer than, a little bit closer for comfort. But then again, you can pen. So this thing is certainly a distance tank. I mean, I have got some APCR shells, which does give you 259 pen. Obviously, I don't use them very much, hence them being low in supply, but it's a sort of a last resort. The only thing that ever nerfed me about this gun is that it has no damage increase for the gun. It's like 90 mil. You'd think they'd have a slightly better damage. I'm not saying you should give it 290 or something silly, but I would say maybe 245, perhaps 250, as it is 2 extra millimeters worth of punch. So that's the only little niggle I ever have about this vehicle. But apart from that, this thing is very awesome, and obviously with the equipment attached, it fires just amazingly well. So yeah, this thing is freaking awesome, and I adore it because of not only the patch now, but also just how effective this can be in tier 8 and 9 and even 10 games. Now onto crew skills and equipment. This is where I tell you what stuff you would need in order to make your tank faster, better, powerful, stronger. So first thing is the equipment. Now I'm actually just going to skip the whole, what I recommend, and just say what you need. You need a Vent Class 2 and a medium caliber gun rammer. Both of these are relatively cheap. I think 200,000 a piece. So very much easy to get once you've got this vehicle. Though the last one is slightly more expensive, being the Vertical Stabilizer Mark 1. This one, I believe, is only 500,000 credits, or 600,000 credits. So unfortunately, it is quite a bit of a journey to get to. But once you get to it, it does give you an amazing benefit of 20 to the accuracy during movement and turret rotation. Now, this is quite helpful for me, as I can quite happily make a bit of a either a last-minute escape shot, also having a bit of a cheeky shot whilst I am sniping. So instead of having to instantly get set up and fight, instantly have to wait for a while before I can shoot, I can instantly get onto the line and start throwing shells down range, which is immensely handy. Going on to crew skills, this tank only has spaces for 4 crew members, so that means your commander is also your radio operator. And for the first skill that you want to be training towards, obviously get yourself Sixth Sense. You know the routine on that one. Then, of course, after getting Sixth Sense, you then want to get Situational Awareness. This is a skill which allows you to get a much better view range. I don't know why it's on the radio operator, but that's one of the only skills that really work for the radio operator. The first skill that you want to have on your gunner is obviously Deadeye, being trained up with and also after Snapshot. So basically select this till it's 100%, then once you've got it already, swap it out for Deadeye, and then continue to get Snapshot, as this is an immensely useful skill, and it also works in tandem with your Indien Panzer's Vertical Stabilizer Mark 1. Going to the driver, naturally you want to give it clutch braking, as it will help you a lot with the traverse speed. Then after which, pick ground off-road driving. Though you can also choose smooth ride, but I don't like firing on the move. I always prefer mobility over abilities to shoot. So definitely a good idea to have that. As well, it helps you out with your horsepower, as it can make you slightly more maneuverable, thus giving you a slightly better advantage in the battle. Finally, your loader. Now, this is a perk which I hadn't really discovered until recently, which is adrenaline rush. As this vehicle doesn't have that many hit points, if you do take a couple of hits, or God forbid an artillery shell, but not die, less than 10% your crew, your loader starts to work overtime, and it increases your reload of your gun, which means you could potentially make that life-saving shot, which could win you the game. So that is immensely handy. After which, safe stowage would probably be a good idea, as then it doesn't, as there's a less chance to risk for ammo rack. But really, afterwards, nothing too important. So enough talking about this vehicle. Let's see how she fares in some replay action. So here we are on Sandy Rivers for the first game, and I am in my Indien Panzer, and we are actually top tier. Well, I say top tier. We're part of the tier 8s in this game. I will say, getting into a tier 8 game with the Indien Panzer is kind of rare. Like, more often than not, you'll be put into tier 9, tier 10 games as you're going up along the grind. Oh, by the way, quick thing. Just a little humorous moment. Note the size of the KV-1S heavy tank and the size of the Indien Panzer medium. Yeah, we're quite big, you and I. And I only have slightly better armament. So yeah, the start of this game, we are in Sandy Rivers on an encounter match. And I haven't actually played this map often. In fact, I think this was one of the first few times I played this map since the 9.2 update came along. So I was very, I wasn't sure as to how I would be able to deal with the environment in that regard. So the game starts off quite normally with most of the heavy tanks going to the north, going to the slugfest zone in the AB line. And I decide to push down towards the JK line where the new sand dunes are placed. Now I will say, ever since they patched this, when I first heard about this in the patches, I wasn't really sure as to whether it would be a bit of a game changer. But as you can see, the dunes do offer some protection, at least, for both sides of the village, this side as well as that. So I'm sort of poking up at the moment, trying to see if I could get a shot in. We are able to kill their KV-13, which is nice, so to 1-0. And still wanting to find the enemy team, though. I'm not wanting to go super crazy and try and be the first one to be sighted and shot. So I push so far, but making sure to keep my KV-1S and heavy tanks in support. Kind of do a bit of a stupid thing and go over the top to see if any targets are there, but so far no contacts, no being spotted, as I do have 6th sense on this vehicle. When the T-29 decides to say, quick, cap me fast, and at the time I was kind of wondering why we'd want to cap less than 2 minutes into the game and get 200 experience. So I'm looking around when, oh shit, there's a Cromwell. I fire, I don't penetrate, but I do hit him, which is one of the benefits of this vehicle, and the quick accuracy gets me a first kill. When an IS-3 comes into play, I'm still reloading, and then I poke across the hill, down again, getting a nice shot into him, poking up again, poking down a bit. He donks the shot, I don't, and just going to see, where did that hit? Yeah, he hit me on the gun mantlet, so luckily I bounce and don't receive any damage. So, lucky. I take another ricochet from somewhere, but I'm not entirely sure where. So I decide to take cover in the village, trying to make sure to avoid all potential damaging spots, but fail miserably. The village does save me from a shot. I try and see if I can get a cheeky shot into the KV-1S, as he is overexposing beyond belief. I finally get myself spotted again, and decide to try and poke around, trying to scan my environment, taking shots from multiple areas. AT-15 is sighted. I get a lucky track-through shot, I guess. And it's by this point I think, right, no, sod this, I'm not going to be useful if I'm just sitting around doing nothing. So I instead decide to be a little bit bold and crazy, get off the sand dune, which luckily does give me an advantage and allows me to escape. So now that I'm out of the firing position, I can start to move on the last whereabouts of the KV-1S, who I did see take a number of hits before disappearing, and he does have less than 240 hit points, and he is making a crucial mistake in turning his turret the wrong way. Still made that mistake. Boom. Shot goes through, hitting and making another kill for me, which is nice. So I'm trying to scan the top of the hill, trying to find the IS-3 that was around there, who was making very much big mistakes. Try and see if I can find him. Still no sighting of him as I approach the next few dunes. Up north we're doing relatively well. We are knocking them down slowly, but it is still tit for tat. There is the IS-3, and I am spotted by him. Now I know he's a bit of a poor player because he's made a number of mistakes before. He's not really reacting fast enough, and artillery is having a major go at him. So, as you can see, because he did absolutely nothing when artillery moved, and it's like, oh, late reactions. He actually backs up, making it a much easier job for me to shoot him. But I donk that shot, which I'm not proud of. Artillery has a go at me. He takes a shot from somewhere else. I take a shot at him. Luckily, or unluckily, he doesn't get killed. Artillery finally does kill him. And then the Königstiger comes in a little too late to provide backup, but still comes in to try and do some support. Now I had the right idea, but I went a little too early, and thus giving him a very much free shot at my side. Now I also make a mistake and think that because of my vehicle's poor acceleration capabilities, I can turn. Unfortunately, he has me at a hip, and it's looking quite disastrous. I'm firing, artillery has a major go at him, and the KV-1S saves my arse. Now I meant to type in thank you KV-1S, but I think I forgot, so my apologies, but thank you very much KV-1S. I fire one shot into the AT-15, artillery still having a hard-on for me. I anticipate, I throw another shot, killing the AT-15. Though well played, so I do send some respect to the unfortunate KT, as he would have killed me if I was, or it would have been a very much a longer game had it not been for my artillery doing stuff. And speaking of artillery, fire! First shot into the Hummel gets me the kill. Second shot, taking its time, gets me another scumbag. So I am on 5 kills at this point. And I'm like, ooh, 2 artillery, 1 scumbag left. Now I actually take a bit more of my time with this one. I fire, the shell goes high, and I think, no, right, sod this. If I'm going to lose the kill, I might as well try and get it and run into it. So our artillery is having a fat go at him. Our team is rushing towards them. It's looking very nerve-wracking. I know he's just fired, but I don't know his reload. He makes a couple of mistakes and raises his gun and lowers his gun. Panicking, probably. I take one shot, does a lot of damage. I jump up, trying to avoid, and BAM! Ram killing the Hummel. And in the process, dodging a number of shots from my allies. And there's that game. So, in total, I have done 2,019 damage and gained 3 artillery kills in the process. My total, that's like the first time I've ever done that. And so I pose right at the end of the game, feeling very much triumphant. So what I'll do now is I'll go take you to show you the results of that game. So here are the results of that game. Now unfortunately I have to move a fair bit about as the editor likes to cut things short. So I've got myself in this game a Mastery Badge Ace Tanker. I also got a Pascucci's Medal for the destruction of those 3 scumbags and a Top Gun. That is a pretty awesome array of things to get. Going to the team score, I did score the most damage in the entire game. I think I did as well. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I got the most damage out of the entire game on both sides. I've got a crap ton of base experience, which is pretty awesome. And yeah, it was a very good game. I'm very happy with that, and that's just what makes me love this thing. And this, with the fast reload, definitely shows how effective this can be in its Tier 8 environment. So here we are for the second and final replay, and this actually is going to be a bit of a first, as this is the first replay in which isn't the latest patch. I've just noticed that. This is a patch 9.1 replay, so this was before this gun got buffed. So don't expect this thing to be super good, but this is merely just to show what kind of performance you can do in a Tier 10 game. As you can see, that is an Object 268, and there are a number of other Tier 10s about. There's a Waffenträger E100. So this is in Serene Coast. I am with my platoon mate as ever, Bidden War, and we are currently, well, unfortunately we've got a few Tier 8 cannon fodder that are in this game. So he decides to push along the right-hand flank, going towards the 9-0 line, where most of the heavy tanks go, and I elect to push towards the 1-2-3 line, where I could perhaps use my gun to my full advantage. Now, unfortunately, because this is a previous patch, I'm afraid I can't quite show you the sniper vision. So when it comes to long-range shots, I'll have to zoom right in, or you'll have to trust my gun aiming sight, as unfortunately the only sights we'll see is just the back of my gun mantle, as you can see there. So you can't really see me aiming at anything. So at this point I spot a Panzer 2, I pop a shot, but a little bit too careless with my shot there, and doesn't make it home. So I throw a precautionary shot into that location to see if I actually do anything. Not entirely sure if I did. And I decide to push up a little bit, going past the T-62A. IS-3 going YOLO over there. T-69, not quite got the gun depression for it. You're going to be able to move into better position. I spot the AMX-50B, who could potentially be a one-shot for me, as he gets completely wrecked by the Yagi 100. WZ-132 is the first to die, I'm afraid. So he died very much quickly. And slight lag there. Batchat 120. Batchat decides to poke, but 3 other medium tanks say no. I try and push towards this right side. Still haven't got enough gun depression. Not really enough to save the IS-3. So I'm in two minds as to whether I should join up with these 3 guys or go down there to provide support. At first I decide to try and have a poke on the top, but realizing that there's a number of tier 10 tanks, it's not likely. So I decide to perhaps take a slightly longer route and get a ninja kill on the WZ-120. So that's a tier 9 kill, which isn't too bad. 17 damage, yeah, such a contribution. I throw another shot into the side of the AMX-1390, who throws a couple more shots towards the T-110E5 before making a mad dash for freedom, and then get promptly killed. So whilst that's going on, I'm trying to have a pot shot at the Yag Tiger, who is now in a fight to the death against the T-62A. I track the Yag Tiger, giving the T-62A a chance to get some flanking shots, and I decide to peg it down there. I throw a random shot towards the Leopard PTA, but unfortunately no luck in getting that one. And so I move into position, taking my time, trying to see if I can get a shot against the Yag Tiger. I pop a shot and I steal the kill from the T-62A, which then, by that point, the Leopard PTA is already giving him hell. I somehow bounce off the top of that. So, try and reload for another shot, trying to miss attacking my friend. Yagi 100 reminds me not to push too far. I push up and steal another tier 9 kill. This is ridiculous. So an IS-7 decides to push up. I pop a number of shots. And unfortunately, the T-62A is destroyed. The T-110E5 tries to push up. Now, I try... My logic at the time told me to try and outflank and come in from another direction. But probably what I should have done is... Looking back at it now, I probably should have stayed there and provided some flanking shots at the IS-7. But at the time, I was not very confident in taking on tier 10 tanks. So unfortunately, the T-110E5 does sadly die, and there was little I could do about it. So perhaps next time I will probably be a little bit more aggressive with that. But at the time, I was a bit too frightened of tier 10s, as I hadn't really fought them often. Anyway, getting back into the replay, so the IS-7 is going along the D2, trying to get into position. I'm hoping to be able to go around the flank when an enemy Foch 155 appears. Not entirely sure if I can push around. I'm mainly searching for the Yagi 100 when I think of possibly of the IS-7 coming around to get shots. So I push up, try and go around the flank, try and redeem myself, perhaps take on the IS-7. If I'm lucky enough, I have reinforcements on the way this time, so I'm a little bit more confident. I fire, I donk the shot, unfortunately, thus it hits his very much better armor than my gun companion. I throw another shot in the hope to try and track him, but unfortunately to no avail. Object 268 rushes into position, try and get a shot in. I fire whilst the IS-7 is distracted, and it doesn't get a kill. Object 430 hopes to get a shot in, but I ninja that one as well. I am sorry, tier 10 guys, I keep ninjuring kills. this was a remarkably lucky game in that regard. So anyway, enemy Foch 155 appears, and the Yagi 100 and the Yag Panther 2 as they make a bit of a push for a last minute. Foch 155 bounces but gets destroyed by the Yagi 100. Yagi 100, I fire, and it actually does some damage, getting a nice high damage roll. Hoping to get another shot in, throw another shell, it bounces, but the 268 finishes off anyway. Now the Yag Panther 2 is in a position, he decides to go a bit YOLO. I pop a shot, which luckily penetrates, and the Yag Panther 2 decides to go Das Stalina, but he's not German. Oh, sorry, he isn't Russian, that's what I meant to say, he's German. And bringing an end to a rather lucky game I had in Tier 10s. Now this, as I said, was before patch 9.2, and also before I gained a little bit more confidence in taking on Tier 10 tanks. So, even before the game patched the Indien Panzer's gun, this thing could still take on Tier 10 tanks and be adequate in Tier 10 games, thus giving me 5 kills, admittedly ninjaed, and doing a fairly decent amount of damage to the enemy team. So I will see you in the replay section out of the game. So here are the results of that game. I completely stole like a pro and got myself a mastery badge for it as well. I'm not too sure if this was my first one, but I have, I think, received 4 mastery badges over the course of my grind for this thing. So yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, it didn't do too much damage. If we go to the team score, did woefully bad in the sense of damage. Did better than most, I'm surprised, but still not as much as I thought, though I did get the most experience out of that, either because of pure spotting, no, just pure damage, pure damage to our tier 10 tanks and didn't take a single point of damage. I think that's probably what got me the most experience out of that. So yeah, even in tier 10 games, before it got patched, this thing could be a right pain in the royal arse. I did get some spotting damage there. So yeah, this thing being a pain in the arse is probably what got me the mastery badge. But yeah, so kill stealing, it's possible even at tier 10. So anyway, I'll take you now back to... So, the Indien Panzer. This thing is... I will say, I have to say, this is close to... This is one of my favourite tier 8 medium tanks thus far. I mean, there are a number of issues with it, no doubt. You've got very bad armour. The gun can feel underwhelming at times, but good God, with other regards, this is absolutely fantastic. You know, I love this vehicle. It's so much fun, and I really hope that they keep it like it is now, because it is such a great tank to drive. I don't know why I like this tank so much, but it's just something that I enjoy driving around. You know, this vehicle has got the most mastery badges that I've ever gotten for a vehicle, so something clearly is working with me and this vehicle. And I hope you guys enjoyed this review of this thing. I am very much recommending you go up and get this vehicle from the tech tree. It is a bit of a grind having to go through 2 VKs, but once you get to the VKs, through the VKs, and get to the Indien Panzer, all will be rewarded. And better still, you get towards getting the Leopard 1 tank, which, let's face it, that's an awesome tank. So thank you very much for watching this, guys. If you like this kind of content, feel free to let me know in the comments section down below, either by clicking on the like button, once again, commentating down south, or subscribing to the channel. If you yourself are a World of Tanks player, a YouTuber, or a YouTuber who does World of Tanks, if there's anything I could do to improve my commentary, improve my gameplay, anything like that at all, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below as well, and I'll hopefully try and make the next episode even more awesome than the last. Thank you very much for watching this, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and this is Crap Hunter signing out. I'll catch you next time.